All right, welcome to the wrap up. Happy with 5-0. We can be contented with that, especially after the last video series with Boggles, where it did not go quite as well. So we can be happy with that at least. But yeah, I'm happy with this deck. I definitely think if you're looking to play fair and modern, this is probably the best and maybe the only particularly reasonable way to do it at the moment. Of course, when we talk about playing fair, we're playing Blood Moons and Faithless Looting, but um, it's as fair as I think you can get right now. Right, we're still this sort of grindy young pyromancer discard based deck, so we're definitely still playing fair. But um, the biggest reason I think that this is the best way to play fair and modern right now is Blood Moon. You can obviously try to play Blood Moon Jund. You can try to play non-Blood Moon fair decks. But I think that just having access to Mana Denial, and I'm sure this won't surprise you greatly if you know that I've enjoyed playing Blue-White Control a long time and sort of declined to play Jeskai for a lot of events and picked up Blue-White instead because of its Mana Denial plan, its ability to have lots of Spreading Seas and Field of Ruins, and before that, Ghost Quarters and Tech Edges. But having a Mana Denial plan in Modern is just super, super helpful. There's a lot of games where when you're playing fair, maybe you can't really deal with what your opponent is doing. Maybe their primary game plan goes around your interaction points and you have no real way to deal with what they're doing. Something like Tron, right? Those matchups, you can get there, but most games, and our Tron opponent still did not have particularly good draws in the early games, right? They weren't able to Tron on 3 in either of the games that we played. And we were able to do stuff like Blood Moon and Molten Rain and Molten Rain plus Surgical. But yeah, I mean, the broader point being, I think when you're playing fair and modern, you either need one of two things: an instant win button, and then you're not really playing fair, right? Something like Twin used to have, or Rug Scapeshift decks of old, or what's a better example? Something that people actually play at the moment. I don't know. Breach, I guess. Blue-Red Breach, right? We're sort of this. They're a control deck that has Blood Moon and an instant win button, even if their instant win button is a little bit weak and sometimes does not win them the game. Generally, that's going to be your best way of playing a sort of fair deck because, or at least an otherwise fair deck, because there are just going to be matchups where you don't have the tools to deal, particularly in something like Blue-Red. Obviously, that's a little less of the case for a 3-color deck like Mardu, but the point still stands, right? There are going to be decks that are just doing things way, way bigger than what we're doing that we can't really profitably interact with. And Blood Moon can really solve a lot of those problems. Not all of them, but a lot of them. So I greatly prefer this deck to Jund right now. I think the lists right now have become tuned to a point where they're quite good, quite refined, really efficient, not very clunky. You probably, if you see my content in the past, you'll know that I hadn't been a fan of this deck for a long time. I thought pretty poorly of it, but basically ever since the PT with Jerry's list, I think that the lists have sort of he took the list that had existed for a long time. I think refined it to a point where it became a lot more just a lot more efficient, honestly, and I think that really helped quite a bit. I've liked it since then a little bit better and sort of warmed up to it over time, and I think it's at a point now where it's one of the better decks in the format at the moment. I also think it has reasonable matchups against some of the more popular decks, and that can really help too, right? It's obviously very meta dependent. But that said, I'm still a big fan of the deck. I'll probably be looking to play it in upcoming events. We'll see. But yeah, it's definitely a deck I would have on my radar. I mentioned it earlier, I think, but obviously we've got some stuff present in my list that I wouldn't necessarily keep if the format changed a little bit. Like I don't have Lily's main deck. I don't think they're particularly good right now, but I still want access to them. I don't have like Comball in my sideboard. I don't have Hazaret. There's a lot of sort of tools for matchups that I'm choosing to ignore a little bit, and you'll see me really heavy in stuff like explosives for humans and boggles matchups that I think I'm expecting to run into a lot more. At the very least humans, and I just want to be prepared for boggles since it's sort of been getting a lot of attention in the last month or so at least. You'll also notice like a lot of graveyard interaction here, at least in different varieties. And in Modern, I really like mixing up your graveyard interaction a lot. We could play ley lines instead, particularly because of their power level in the mirror, but and because we have Fatal Suiting to pitch them if we do draw them. But I still like sort of mixing it up a little bit, though I think ley lines are a reasonable way to go. I'm down to 1 wear and tear. It's good against boggles, and it has the artifact hate portion as well, but I also have the Rakdos Charm as another artifact hate spell that doubles as this sort of graveyard hate spell. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy with this list. There's not really a lot I want to change. I like the additional Molten Rains instead of more Blood Moons, particularly because of the Bedlam Revelers. If you flood on Blood Moons and pitch them to Lootings, you can still make your Revelers hard to cast. Doubling up Blood Moon plus Molten Rain is still good. So drawing a mixture of them is fine, or if you sort of flood on the effect, you can pitch them to your Lootings and still be a little bit happier. And then we just have a couple other pieces of filler, you know, Brutality for the matchups where it's good, and the third push sort of a nod to humans more than anything else. So yeah, that said, I'm pretty happy with this list. There's not a lot I want to change. I think 2 Metamorphos might even be the right number. It's always tempting to go more up on this, but sometimes they can be clunky. And there's really nothing I want to cut. I'm pretty happy again with the numbers of things in our main deck. I could potentially be convinced to cut a Kolaghan's Command. 3 is a lot for a deck that cycles through this many cards, but obviously it's just a good card. It's just a good card for the deck. So anyway, that'll about do it for me today. I appreciate everybody who stuck through and watched the video. Much appreciated again. And I will see you all next time. Have a wonderful rest of your day.